complete the square.
Ooh, we just have to draw a line so we can get a square.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh man.
No! Okay, I was just asking.
All right, my little catchphrase for this is half the middle term squared.
Catchphrase. I want a catchphrase. What's your catchphrase say? Catchphrase. That's not a Ouch.
So what this looks like is if we have something, say x squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and it's not something that we can factor. Okay, sometimes they are, and the instructions still say to complete the square. This is your warning. If it says complete the square and you factor it, it will be wrong because you didn't follow instructions. So what happens is we're going to say that this is not factorable though. Okay, notice that in front of x squared is just a 1. It has to be a 1 for this problem to work. If it's a negative 1, we have to just like take a negative out of everything and then like divide it so that it works out. But we need to move this c term over. So what happens is we end up with x squared plus bx equals negative c. And notice I'm leaving a space. So what I do is I am adding a box to both sides. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So what goes in this box is half the middle term squared. So I take half of whatever the middle term is. Okay, not the x, but like the number. So half of b, so b over 2. And I square that. And whatever I do on one side, I have to do over here. So this is b over 2 squared here as well. Sorry, that's kind of tiny. Now, oftentimes what I will do is I will leave this piece written as whatever the number is squared. Over here, I will square the number. Okay, that just kind of saves a step later on and makes your life easier. That is totally up to you. Okay, it'll make more sense when we're doing it with a number and not letters, because usually it's not letters. So then this, by doing this, becomes a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so the goal is to make this side over here a perfect square trinomial. So that factors into x plus, and the sign here would still be whatever the middle term is, b over 2 squared equals whatever this number comes out to be. Okay? So whatever that number comes out to be is what it's equal to. Then you would just follow your normal, take the square root of both sides, subtract or add whatever this number is, and then you get x equals whatever. Okay, so this is just a different way to solve equations. Sometimes there will already be a number on this side that's not 0, so when we move this piece over, obviously that's like adding to it. Usually they come out pretty nice as final answers, but sometimes you still end up with like square roots and stuff in there. It just kind of depends.
I still am not 100% sure on what perfect square things are.
First term squared, middle term is 2 times the first term times the last term is squared.
Okay, so if you were to have that, you just, what do? You just take x and you take the first number and the last number in parentheses and square them?
Yes. And whatever the sign in the middle term is the sign in here.
Okay, so you just get rid of the middle term completely?
Except for the sign.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, basically.
Okay.
All right, so the first problems are, they kind of take us step by step the way that our book does this, which has pros and cons. So number 4, we have x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 64. And what they say is to solve the equation by finding square roots. I'm on the right, yeah, I am on the right page. Okay. So basically, they have already quote unquote completed the square for you. Okay, because half the middle term here would have been 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay,
25.
so essentially they've already done that. So it's already a perfect square trinomial on the left. Okay,
Yes. So
so what does this factor into?
I know.
Plus 5 squared.
Yep, x plus 5 squared equals 64. Take the square root of both sides, so I have x plus 5
Equals 8.
equals
Plus or positive?
Yeah.
I mean, negative or positive. Plus or minus.
plus or minus 8. Okay, is the square root of that. Then I need to split it into two separate equations because it's actually a number. If it's just a radical, you can leave it. But x plus 5 equals 8 or x plus 5 equals negative 8. So x equals 3 or x equals negative 13. And that would be your answer. So essentially, they completed the square for you and they just said finish the problem.
Ooh, I like this.
Okay, now we're going to actually be
How
doing
hard
it in a minute.
How do you recognize a perfect square? If the last number can be taken the square root of? What?
The first term is squared, the last term is squared. The middle term is 2 times the first term times the last term.
She did not get
You
that.
didn't get any of that.
Okay.
That's how I solved the trinomial.
This is x squared.
I
This
know.
is 5 squared.
Yes.
This is 2 times 5 times x.
Doesn't work when it's not a perfect square, is that?
It still works. when
You
it's
just
not.
do it in your head.
But you gotta remember, show your work.
All right, number 8.
Yourself.
I'm not having a problem with showing my work. Should I?
X squared minus 18x plus 81 equals 5.
That's a perfect square trinomial.
Yes, it is.
Told you, Zach.
Yes, it is.
Show your work. X minus 9 squared.
Yep, x minus 9 squared equals 5.
I just wanted to say something.
Take the square root of both sides. X minus 9 equals
Plus or minus square root of 5.
plus or minus the square root of 5. Since this is something that's staying in a square root, you can just leave this combined as one answer. If you want to split it, that's also fine. I don't care. So x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 5.
Bingo.
All right, so like I said, they kind of work you up to these problems because, I mean, you've probably done this briefly in Algebra 1 and you probably had no idea what you were doing because normally in Algebra 1 everyone's confused. It was a very long time before I understood this concept. It was probably Algebra 2, if maybe not even all the way to pre-cal before I really understood completing the square. So the book is nice. They kind of work you up to it. And so the next part is finding C. So basically, they are telling you to find what goes in the box.
Okay.
So it's really nice. So they say, find the value of C that makes the expression a perfect square trinomial. Then write the expression as the square of a binomial. So basically factor it. Okay. So 14 x squared plus 12x plus c.
Equals
36.
Does it equal anything, or it's just?
So no. So this one is just finding what that term is, and then like
Okay.
to make it a perfect square trinomial. So AKA complete the square, and then it wants us to rewrite it as the factor, like we did here with the piece squared.
Okay.
That's what the two sets of like two instruction things are. So we half the middle term. So what's half of 12?
6.
6 squared is
36.
okay. So C equals 36.
You want us to show our work?
X plus 6 squared.
I mean, if you can do that, I think it's fine.
But if we just write t equals 36, you'll take that?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Because this is really just like on a quiz, I'm not going to give you one of these most likely. I'm just going to make you complete the square.
Okay.
This is to help you to start building the process, to make sure that you understand how to do the baseline steps before you're actually thrown into a problem.
Right catchphrase.
Okay, if you want to know where this came from, this was 12 over 2 squared. In case you need it. So now I take this and I write it as a factor. So what is the perfect square trinomial, like what does it factor into?
X plus 6 squared.
Yep, x plus 6 squared. So the two things it's looking for is c equals 36 and then the factored form here.
That's x squared plus 12x plus 36.
Yep.
So smart.
So 16 x squared minus 30x plus c.
Oh, 15 square.
Negative 15 squared.
225.
So I'm also going to tell you, I don't usually write the sign because no matter what, when you square something, it's going to become positive. So yes, technically it would be negative 15 squared, but I don't normally write that because it's going to become positive either way. So 15 squared is?
225.
Yep, 225.
I like math.
Okay, so I'm going to write it over here. 30 over 2 squared. So c equals 225 is the first thing. Now I need it factored to a perfect square trinomial. And what do I get?
You get x
minus 15
squared.
Yep, x minus 15 squared.
Still beat you.
All right, one more like this, and then we'll move into actually completing the square. X squared plus 50x plus c.
X squared, what is 25 squared?
You know what 25 squared is? 4.
So this is 25 squared is c.
Wait, I can do 25 times 25. 5, 0, 10, 4, 5. Ooh, 5. 6, 25.
Yep,
Good job saying.
625.
X plus 25 squared.
Yep, x plus 25 squared.
I like math. Do you have a favorite math class to teach?
Either this one or pre-cal probably.
See, we're always the teacher's favorite class. Mrs. Meadows really.
She didn't say anything about us. Yeah, She was she talking said about the the subject class itself.
Oh. Well,
I mean, the class,
plus.
the students do help make the class,
Besides
but
Shepherd.
I would have said that for the last several years that this was a favorite,
Besides
so.
Shepherd.
I'm a great student.
Yeah, and it's fun too. I like algebra too so far.
And I like teaching like basic trig when you know trig. Like I think that's fun.
I wish your
I
class
like
was
when we
super
color.
long.
Well, we're gonna color again soon because I want Christmas calculator pictures to go up.
No.
I'm gonna let y'all take those if you
As
want
long as
them.
there's no candy
We're
corn.
gonna put them all.
I said
No, there are snowflakes and Christmas lights.
The Christmas lights.
And like hot
I
cocoa.
thought we had
Like the
cocoa.
calculators are drinking hot cocoa in one of them,
I
I'm pretty
wanna
sure.
drink coffee.
I thought we had
They
to do
could
the
have
turkey
made
first.
There isn't any
triangle.
turkey
There's no
ones.
turkeys?
But you
What?
could have done
Could've
like
made a
turkey
triangle
square.
bit
Gobble,
into
gobble.
a-
I didn't make these. Like I don't know if you know that, but like there's a calculator company that made them, hence why they're all
Yeah.
like
I thought
themed, labeled.
I thought you made it on your iPad and printed them out.
No, I'm not that talented.
But you are
I
talented.
sent them to my math uncle and he was like, that's so cool. Is that how you refer to him? Yeah.
You're-
I have, yeah.
And the
Daniel,
math uncle.
Daniel has a math uncle and I have a racist cousin.
I have a math uncle and I have a math uncle.
Why do we have to find out
This uncle sounds a lot
what
like you.
the square is if we're just gonna take the square root of it?
It's because you have to put it in the form. For real.
Yeah.
Because on the right side of completing the square, you need the number.
Whoa, I like your
Okay.
cup holder.
She's not
Oh,
even
that's
using the cup
cool.
holder.
I know she's holding
Putting
by
it by the lid.
But that's if she was holding it by the thing that kept it warm, then I couldn't see what she was
Does
doing.
it keep it warm?
Oh, that's very smart.
So
It's
she had it
actually
like-
keeping it cold, but
What?
No, that would melt it.
No. It's
No, it
keeping
doesn't.
it cold and it's
It's like-
keeping her hands from freezing.
I think it only does one of those. Because
If
it's
you're
keeping-
really hot, you're not
it's
gonna put a
making it
blanket on.
warmer. It's like a jacket. It's a fleece
Zach, I'm gonna solve that
jacket.
today. I'm gonna solve that today.
No.
Oh,
Yes.
Insulating takes whatever
can
temperature
spray
is
it.
there and
Okay.
keeps it there.
Look,
That's fleece.
It's still not.
It's insulating.
it's not. It's
not
yarn.
It's the same thing.
Okay,
You made it.
now we're on to actually completing the square. Now, this problem is not written like I just wrote it. It's written with the equal sign touching the 4x and the 10, but I'm trying to save you having to rewrite the whole problem. So I leave a space because I know that I'm adding a box. So I add a box here to this side, and I add a box to this side because the instructions say to complete the square.
So you have to draw the square so you can complete it.
I just do that so that you make sure that you do it on both sides,
I do a
basically.
rectangle.
How dare you?
Fail.
We're using squares.
All right, so half the middle term squared. So what is half the middle term?
4.
2.
2. So this is what I do. You do not have to write it this way. You can write it as 4 here. I do this, 2 squared. Because that tells me what number is going into my perfect square trinomial. Okay? Over here, though, I will rewrite it as 4 because I have to add these two numbers together.
No,
Okay.
why?
I don't care if you write it as 4 in both boxes or 2 squared in both boxes. But the bigger the numbers get, like if you had this one, it's a little bit easier just mentally to think about it if you write it this way.
Oh, because it.
I think I'm just gonna do 4 because there's so many numbers that I got lost already.
Sure, but it just equals x plus 2 squared because it's a perfect square. We're just.
Yeah, but then when I'm
squares.
looking back at this, I'm gonna be like, why is there a 2 squared and then a 4?
All right, x plus 2 squared equals 14.
And then we solve. Just take the square roots.
Take the square root. So x plus 2 equals,
Positive or negative square root of wait. 7. Yep. Positive or negative square root of 14.
yep. If you can break down the square root, you should break it down. This one cannot because just 2 and 7. So then x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 14 would be your answer.
Did you get that answer?
I'm writing it right now.
There you go.
I hate that class.
In Spanish, like we speak more Spanglish.
26. X squared minus 18x plus 86 equals 0.
Okay. This is gonna make sense.
That's yucky.
All right, so I know that the instructions say I have to complete the square. There's no reason for me to even attempt to factor it because I know what the instructions say. So I'm moving 86 over. X squared minus 18x equals negative 86. I know I have to complete the square, so I'm going to add a box to both sides.
Oh man,
Oh, I forgot the box.
me too. Erase.
May I ask a random question?
Hey,
What order do you do the sides of the boxes?
half of negative 18
So
squared.
it's supposed
Why
to
do
be
you look
right.
so
No.
disappointed?
Do you,
Yeah.
do you,
When you write a Chinese box in
But it
Chinese, you have
depends.
to do it a certain way. So
Oh.
I've been
America.
cursed.
It
I have to
depends. When
write
I
it
do
the same
these,
way.
I go across the top first.
I
actually
do
have a
one. I
question.
do one line for down, and then I do this like a hook, and then I draw one line on the bottom, and that's how you always have to write a box in
Why does
when
it
you write a
matter?
box.
Daniel,
Because
why
it-
does drawing a box matter?
So I'm just like curious what someone like who doesn't like what an uncursed person would like how
Uncursed
they would
person.
write a square.
I actually have a math
It's a
question.
square.
Yes.
Are you calling us
So,
all
a math
ignorant in how we write
So
our
for
squares?
negative,
No,
if
you're
you take
like-
the sign,
Ignorant
if you take,
American.
so it's half of b squared. Would you take the sign of what's in front of 18 with it?
So,
Still American.
yes, but the number's getting squared, so it's
So it
going to be
doesn't matter.
positive, so I don't.
Okay.
Technically, mathematically, yes. You should write like this one, Negative.
18 divided by 2.
yes.
Okay.
But
But
I
since it's
don't
being
because
squared.
it's being squared and it's going to be positive either way, so I just ignore the sign because it tends to confuse people, and I end up with people having negative signs left in their answer and they get the answer wrong because that's why I'm just like, just make it positive.
I'm actually gonna have to study really hard for this test.
So what is half of 18?
9.
So this is 9
81.
squared, 81. So how do I write the left side?
Minus 86 plus 81.
X minus 9 squared equals what?
Negative
-5.
five. Oh well, yeah, negative 5.
Negative 5. So now when I take the square root of both sides, what happens?
It's
X
an
minus
imaginary
9
number.
equals I square root of and plus or minus I square root of 5.
I?
Yep. Because I'm taking the square root, so there's kind of an intermediate step here that we're skipping. So this is plus or minus the square root of negative 5. taking the negative out, we have to take out an I, so that's why it gets like that. So then add the 9 over. X equals 9 plus or minus I root 5.
Yay.
That's
Yeah, that hurt a lot.
But like, who decided they cared so much that they were putting me a negative inside a radical? Like, I feel like this is just some made up rule that someone was like, I don't like that there. Let's make up another
Doing
letter.
math. I have no idea how this helps me in real life.
Taxes.
But you can't.
there's no imaginary taxes, Genie.
That would be nice. We should
I
make
wish
those.
taxes were
Yeah, exactly.
imaginary.
Imaginary
Yeah.
taxes.
Mason, you don't pay taxes.
Exactly.
I had to like,
Charlotte,
It's
it's not that
building
you
the
have to. You
brain
can't have a negative inside the radical, but it's like if
helps
it's
you
in
learn
the square root
to
of
learn.
8, you have
That's
to
what my mom
take
told me.
the
She said it
number
helps you
out,
learn
right?
to learn.
You have to take the 4 out, so you just have to take the negative 1 out because that's a square of something.
But it should still be negative 1. But it's not. They
The
just
only
made
kind
up
of
math
math
that
that
matters is
homework
consumer math.
now.
Like, do you think
No.
someone
No.
with do you think someone who's caught behind in the intelligence department would be able to be a point guard on a basketball team?
Yes.
Why are we connecting
No.
this to nothing?
Someone who's extremely smart though would be able
It's just
to.
'cause of what I said.
Yeah, I was trying to see
Just
how
calling
that
us
I
slow,
do.
man.
I do down,
Daniel, draw my paper.
over, side, and then I always do the bottom. That's how I
K.
have to.
Bomb is locker.
Alright.
See what I did?
Oh,
2k squared plus 16k equals negative 12.
I still
Wait,
have to make a mind
that's
up,
not
I'm
X.
gonna lie.
I played 2K yesterday on my
Why is there a
phone.
K?
It is not X.
Oh, we have to
The
do-
variable does not matter what it
Should I
is.
write X because it makes me happy?
No, the problem says K.
It's Kit Kats.
K is just an X with a straight side instead of them
But
both
I
being
don't like the straight
crisscrossed.
side.
Well, stop talking back, Ryan. You know what?
Alright, what do I do?
Divide by 2,
Why?
because we can't have the 2 on the K.
Correct. I can't have anything but a 1 in front, so I need to, technically speaking, factor a 2 out, then divide. So, 2 times k squared plus 8k equals negative 12. Divide by 2, so I have k squared plus 8k equals negative 6.
Is there a reason you didn't just divide?
Yeah, I just
the
divided by
side
2. Do you have to figure it out? I just straight up divided both sides by 2.
Because you need to make sure that you understand that what's really happening is that it's being factored out, then divided.
Yeah.
But do I need to show that step on the quiz?
I would recommend it because things that we're going to do later on, if you don't do it this way, you're going to end up getting things wrong.
I'm getting it wrong already.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
am I going to mark it wrong? Probably not on this quiz. However, I'm trying to get you used to this because things that you're going to do later, if you start trying to divide by things, you can't actually do that without it factoring out.
I think I'm gonna go to
The big one being the quadratic formula, which is in like a section or 2.
We gotta build the good habits while it's easy.
Yes. It's kind of like what I did with Algebra 1. I made them show all their steps, even when we did one-step equations, and most of them could just do that in their head. I understand that. But what they didn't know was coming was solving for a variable. And because most of them didn't show their work early on, then they were in trouble by the time we got to the last section because they had no idea how to move things around to solve for a variable when there was no longer just one variable, but there were 2. I was like, see, I know things you don't.
Oh,
This is why you need to do it this way. Am I going to mark it wrong? Probably not. But
Try and do-
this is the smarter way to do it. All right, so we add a box. All right, what number's going in the box?
put them in the box for it.
4 squared.
4 squared.
16 on the other side.
Yep, or 16.
Box, box, box.
All right, what does the left side factor into?
6.
K plus 4 squared.
K plus 4 squared equals
10.
Remember taking an eye out?
what?
There's no odd
no
beat if
eye.
you take it
Is
out.
it negative?
Oh. You have the wrong answer.
Remember,
Stop sitting.
All right,
Take out the negative.
take the square root. I get K plus 4 equals what?
Plus or minus square root of 10.
Yep, plus or minus square root of 10. Subtract 4, K equals negative 4 plus or
That's what I
minus
got.
square root of 10.
Uh,
I don't know why I just boxed that one side.
This is straight.
Is that X?
No, because it's straight.
Straight.
I want the K to go wonk.
write your K like that.
Oh yeah, this is a kid.
All right, last one. You're gonna do it on your own, and then we'll go over it. 32. 7t squared plus 28t plus 56 equals 0. Solve by completing the square.
When did we decide to start putting letters in math?
It's
Yeah,
when they
but-
changed the fill in the blank boxes in first grade to letters. That's essentially what it is.
Because my T's like plus signs.
And draw boxes.
I don't know what half of 28 is.
14.
If you're taking half of
Yes.
28, you're already doing something wrong.
You gotta take out the
Yeah.
7 chat.
Take the 7.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Please be right.
See, can you boil that? What?
You can do it, you just have to move stuff around.
No, I already got it.
Okay.
Okay.
You were sounding like you think it was, I don't even know if it's solvable.
I bet had it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there. Because I'm so
Move
Did you
the
get-
8 to the other side.
Charlotte,
8?
I already did that part.
You take out that first.
please rewrite. I squared it really big, so I know it's.
You squared it really big.
I'm gonna box it.
Does I2 exist?
What?
If I have the square root of -4, is that I times 2?
Or 2
No,
times
it's
I.
2 times.
Should be written 2 times I, but
Yeah.
Oh my
Can
goodness,
you
I got the
subtract
right
2
answer.
from 2 times I?
No.
Dang it! Okay, then I had the answer.
I got it.
all right. What do we get?
It's negative
I got
e
t equals -2 plus or minus 2i.
Everybody get that?
Yes.
No, Daniel did it.
Yep.
No, I have the plus or minus right here. I
You
just
said it
forgot to say
wrong.
I forgot to say it.
Daniel?
Or maybe I was gonna
Beautiful.
Say the first one. Maybe I was gonna say the first one and
We
then
have a
say
miniature dance
or
party?
and then the minus. You never
No.
know.
I got it.
She said we can't have a dance party, Shepard.
I already danced.
All right. So we factored out the 7, or y'all's method. Divide everything by 7. 0 divided by 7 is just 0, so it just goes away. So then, after that point, move the 8 over, complete the square,
So
and then you ultimately get down to t equals -2 plus or minus 2i.
I moved over 56 for the first step, but I still got the right answer.
Do I have another pencil?
Because it would have, I mean, that's fine. You still ultimately had to divide everything by 7.
Okay.
I just try to factor out first before I start moving things. Because if it wasn't a completing the square problem, hypothetically, I could have factored, I mean, not this one, I couldn't have. But if you take something out, sometimes it becomes factorable at that point. And then you'd have to move it back over. So,
This math class makes me feel smart. Just this section, not yesterday.
Only today.
Yesterday I felt really dumb. This one makes
well, that's good, because this is usually the section that confuses people to no end. So,
It's not confusing.
Good job, Ryan. You're extra smart today. Oh, never mind.
all right.
My finger.
You're just stupid.
5, 15, 19, 23, 25, and 33.
Alright, guys.
Now, something we didn't have, and I don't see any like this, but sometimes your middle term is odd,
Ew.
No, thank you.
and thus you end up with fractions that you're dealing with. Don't be alarmed when that happens. I'm just letting you know that it doesn't appear that any are like that in here.
Can they not be like that on our quiz or test as well?
In our exam.
At that
Fractions
point, I'm
are
just
long.
getting it wrong.
Actually, here, I'm going to add 53 so that you have one that has an odd middle term. Because you need to understand what that, I mean, it's, nothing is different about the process. It just isn't a pretty number.
So I finished
I like
4.6.
pretty numbers.
So to square
Yeah, ugly numbers are
a
gross.
fraction, you multiply the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom.
So let me see if there is one that has an odd middle term. Okay, here, 52.
Hang on, let me do this.
52, x squared plus 9x. I'm going to go ahead and move the 20 over. Equals negative 20, just so that it's already solved out like that. All right, so I add the box. I don't know why it's crooked, but whatever.
Yucky.
All right, half of 9
4.5.
as a fraction.
9/2.
9/2 squared.
That's 81/4. Wow.
So, yeah, I usually will go ahead and write that as like 81/4. This becomes, on this side, x plus 9/2 squared equals, I would rewrite this as something over 4, so this would be 80/4, or negative 80/4. So, I get 1/4 left on this side. This one actually isn't too awful. Take the square root of both sides. X plus 9/2 equals, plus or minus, the square root of 1/4 is what? 1/2. Subtract. So now I need to split these into two separate things because this was a nice perfect, whatever you want to call it, perfect square. So x plus 9/2 equals 1/2. Or x plus 9/2 equals negative 1/2. So then subtract 9/2. I get x equals negative 8/2. Or x equals negative 4. Over here, x equals negative 10/2. Or x equals negative 5. So that one happened to come out nice. Sometimes your answers are left as fractions. It just depends, but that's what one that has an odd middle term is going to look like. So see, it follows the same process. It's just not as pretty, really, in the end. So
If the problem starts as a perfect square trinomial, do we still add the number to the other side?
which one are you looking at?
The first one, number 5.
Did you get?
So that one says to solve the equation by finding square roots.
Never mind.
So, Charlotte, did you get n equals 0 or n equals 16?